Good morning. I'm out here in my backyard painting some hydrangeas, and I'm starting off with my viewfinder. I have it set at 8 by 10, and I'm holding my viewfinder up, closing one eye, looking through my dominant eye. I'm left eye dominant but right-handed. And I'm just going to mass in the flowers. Little buggy out here today. So I'm painting and drawing here at the same time. I'm just using some mineral spirits to mass this in. Using ultramarine blue and permanent magenta to put the initial color perception down here. Again, can't stress enough how much I squint down, and again, I'm looking through one eye. What that does is it flattens everything out. We have binocular vision, and if anybody ever loses sight in one eye, like I did actually temporarily, I had Bell's palsy postpartum with my last child, and it really limits your depth perception. So looking through one eye and then even blurring your vision a little bit significantly flattens everything out, which is important when you're painting realistically, because you are translating the three-dimensional world onto a two-dimensional surface. This is Viridian. I'd like to do an exercise. I haven't painted for so long with simply using a dead palette or earth colors. I'd like to do that, but not today, obviously, because I'm just using my Viridian and my cadmium red here. It's hard to believe how much red is in green. I feel like oftentimes there is more red in green than there is green. This is my second run at this painting. I have 3 kids, and oftentimes I just won't paint because I know that I'm going to be interrupted, and that is what happened yesterday. I painted and had to wipe it out because they just couldn't handle me being out here, and they were needy, and life of an artist mom, not always easy when the work that you do requires such focus. I'm not out here saving lives, but I feel like this work is akin to a surgeon's work, the level of focus that is required. So it's like, imagine trying to perform surgery with 3 kids running amok. Probably wouldn't go so well. I have a little cadmium, I think it's cadmium lemon, I can't remember. Actually, I know so many plein air artists use a cool yellow and a warm yellow, and or just cadmium lemon, and it's really a color that I have a disdain for. I don't I tend to be drawn more to cadmium yellow light, or what I have here on the palette is, I believe, cadmium yellow medium. I don't find a lot of use for cadmium lemon. I think I just have a perception that sees things a bit warmer, perhaps. I'm not sure why it is that I don't love that cadmium lemon color. So I'm really just drawing in paint here. Make this a little, excuse me, a little earthier with some of that dead coloring, ultramarine blue and some yellow ochre. I don't have any earth red on my palette right now, but that would be good. So I'm still holding my viewfinder up. Again, I know I have an 8x10 panel here, and this is a new panel. I often, as a mom of 3 kids that need, clothing and are eating a lot to grow, I definitely have a limited budget with my art supplies. So I often end up painting on oil paper, which I do like the texture. But it is affordable, and this is actually my first time painting on Centurion linen panels. I find that I keep hearing a buzz about them, so I'm giving them a try. This is first test drive on these Centurion linen panels. Even my oil paper, though, I prime with a lead oil primer, and so it does give it a really nice surface. And this I believe it does have an oil primed surface, but it is not as nice as my lead priming that I do myself. So if I were to do something a little bigger that I wanted to spend a little bit more time and effort on, I probably would prime it with an oil primer. Okay, so just blocking this in still. So I don't love all these white gaps in here. I'm going to put my viewfinder away here. This Edge Pro easel has a nice little storage area underneath. If you were using this easel to do little drawings, it's a nice place to store your pencils. I have done some small portrait sketching with this easel, and that's where I put my pencils in that instance. But I keep my razor blade to scrape off my glass palette under there, and my viewfinder, business cards, occasionally I keep in there when I'm out plein air painting. If I have visitors, which some people don't don't enjoy having visitors, but I don't mind at all. I really enjoy those conversations when I'm out painting and somebody stops by. So I don't always do this, but I don't know, I'm just trying it out today. So, all right, now I'm at the place where, what do I do next here? Here's that razor blade I was talking about. Scrape off this watery paint. It's not actually water, but liquidy paint. Next thing I'm going to do is just take some time to mix up colors. And so what that means is I'm going to take some time to observe color. This area right here is somewhat centrally located. So now that I'm thinking about my composition, maybe I should have put that less central, but it's not going to be too much of a focal point as it appears to be right now. But this color right here is just really obvious to me. So I'm going to mix that up. I'm going to take my cadmium lemon, see what happens. I should take some time to do some color charts. I do them occasionally. Alizarin crimson, just to knock it down. So I'm using all cool colors right here. Alizarin crimson, a cool red, lemon yellow, a cool yellow, and viridian, cool green. Yeah, so just taking some time to mix up these piles. And mix up some darker greens. Just gonna yesterday when I was out here, this color worked good, this ultramarine blue and yellow ochre, but today I'm going to go with Windsor green and some alizarin crimson. Creates a really rich black, really, if you have equal amounts. But you can shift that color to more of a red or more of a green. And still looking pretty green, and to reveal that color you can take a little white. And I can see it's, even though I put quite a bit of that alizarin crimson in there, it's still pretty cool. So let's take a bit more. Okay, that's good. And I am going to actually mix up some of that ultramarine blue with some yellow ochre here too. Getting a little glare on my colors here. So I'm going to take a moment and adjust my easel. I'm just going to loosen the tripod, give it a little bit of a forward tilt, see if that helps. Yeah. Now that I'm not using as much of the mineral spirits. Okay. I'm going to move that back a little bit. Okay, good. I don't know, helped a little bit, maybe not too significantly. Cadmium yellow medium. Again, I think that's what I have here, I'm pretty sure. Just gonna keep that how it is. I can always modify it as I use it. And here's a little trick I learned from Jeremy Lipking. I took a workshop with him several years ago, lifetime ago it seems. And I use this mixture all of the time under cool lighting. It's white with ultramarine blue and just a touch of alizarin crimson. And I use this to cool off colors as I paint. It's pretty good. Maybe a little bit darker. Just a a little bit more. Okay.
It's been 25 minutes since we put it in. Do you think it's ready?
Let's mix up some colors for these hydrangeas. So always starting with the most obvious color. For the hydrangea on the left, obviously blue, and asking myself 3 questions. What color, or the chroma, what color, what value, and what chroma, what is the intensity? So the color is blue, the value maybe a little bit darker than like a mid-value range, and the chroma kind of in the middle there, not too intense but not too dull either. Okay, and as soon as you start mixing those colors, you can see more readily what you need. So right now I'm just playing with the actual value, and you know, I can even just lay some down there. I'm going to go a little bit lighter yet, and I am going to mix up some darker blues too. Right now working on that one average value. Definitely going to need to mix up more white here. And what I mean by that is I like to add some medium to my white so it's a little more workable. It's kind of a cool morning here. The warmer it is, the less of that I need. I can use this permanent magenta that I have out. Still pretty blue. Just ever so incrementally adding that color. You can always add more, but can't take it away. So I'm going to mix up these light areas on the petals. I can't really show you, point them out right now. Okay. It's kind of like a little bit of a yellow ochre, that touch of green in it. No, I'm not going to use that. I'm actually going to go see how I said I had so much disdain for this cadmium lemon. Well, I'm actually using it today. Again, just a touch. I don't need too much for those areas. I'm going to keep it pretty light, those petals. What else do I see there? Boy, that's pretty good. The opposite of yellow is purple. Maybe I'll take that permanent magenta, see what that does. Oh, I like that. Okay. A little bit more cad lemon and a little bit more white. Good. Just going to start moving some of these colors out of the way. Boy, this palette knife is not, this is the new palette knife. It's not working too great. I've got a different one here. Okay. That is so much better. This is feel like I can always use a bit more palette space. Okay. Taking the little bit of white that I have left here, and I'll mix up some more of this permanent magenta. I think I took a little too much. Okay, actually that's probably pretty good. I'm gonna pause this video for a minute and mix up some white. Okay, I'm back. I just took some time to put some white on my palette and mix in some Neo Magilp. It's a new medium I'm trying. Elizabeth Robbins uses this medium, and I signed up for her Inspired to Paint option for a month and loved watching her paint. She's incredible. I'm inspired to paint and inspired to garden by seeing her beautiful garden and how she paints all the flowers that she grows. All right, thinking here. Oh, I was gonna mix up some of these darker blues. So just straight ultramarine here, not adding any white. Anytime you add white, that cools the color down as well, and I just want to keep this kind of dark. Maybe a little bit too much alizarin crimson. Let's see what that color looks like. Okay, that's pretty good. Whew. I'm just sitting here quietly, standing here, observing a bit more, squinting down, looking at some of my darks, determining how I'm going to approach my darks here. All right, I think I'm just going to leave it and get started painting here. Getting some brushes picked out. I keep a little pile of white separate so I don't dirty up my whole pile. And then I just add more. Once that pile runs out, I add more. So squinting down quite a bit, not thinking about too much information in the background right now. Thinking more about the foreground and yeah, definitely drawing. Keeping some Neo McGilth on both sides of my palette here. Just feels easier to me to be able to reach for those colors. I want this background to stay thin right now. I don't want my paint too thick yet. Still really blurring down, just painting what I see with my blurred vision. When I was a student at the University of Wisconsin-Superior, my favorite professor was Timothy Cleary. I learned a lot from him. But I recall one of our first drawing classes, he told us to go buy this Reeves BFK paper. And it's a rag paper. It's, as a poor college student, it wasn't cheap. It was, I don't know, at the time, maybe $10 or more a sheet. And then we got, that's fine. I'm excited I've always liked to spend my money on nice art supplies. So that was fine. Definitely willing to do that. And then we get to class and he has a projector in there, an old-fashioned projector for an image. And he tells us it's an image that is, I don't know what it is. It looks like an amoeba, like we're drawing an amoeba. And he tells us, draw what we see. And I was so confused. I'm like, what are you talking about? I just bought this beautiful, expensive paper, and you want me to draw an amoeba, like a blurry amoeba at that? And he said, just trust me, draw what you see. And so the drawing ensued, and he would have us rotate our paper while at the same time rotating the slide. So he would rotate the slide to the right a quarter turn, and we would rotate our paper a quarter of a turn accordingly. And when that drawing was finished, it was a woman holding a dying or dead soldier. I think it's a pretty, I don't know the name of the image, but I think it's pretty common. And my drawing was incredible. And so that is how, well, given the fact that I thought I was drawing an amoeba, I was so enthralled at the prospect that I just made a very realistic drawing, having no idea what I was drawing, starting from, I think they call it like drawing from the soup. And it was incredible. It was such a learning experience, and that has always stuck with me. That is how I paint to this day. So even though I have something that is in focus in front of me, I am not seeing it that way. I'm intentionally blurring it down and painting from the soup, if you will. It's like pea soup. And that helps the artist subordinate all of the little details to the big picture, and keeps your value structure intact. I think I've heard the term compress your values. I don't usually compress my values as much as I simply keep everything subordinated to the overall value scheme that I'm seeing. I've always had a tendency to see contrast, maybe a little bit more intensely than others. It's what I like in my painting. I mean, I really see these darks. Some of that comes from studying with Stephen Assail. He likes to bring out the contrast and the chiaroscuro of what he's painting. Also, at the same time, trying not to go too dark. Especially painting out of doors, trying to leave some breath, some atmosphere in the darks. I think I do have that tendency to go a little bit too dark, even though I'm really seeing those darks. When I squint down, I have to remember to also take a look with my 20/20 vision. Oops. I keep umbers on my palette. I'm just so used to my training as a figurative painter, traditionally trained with using an earth or dead palette. So the opposite of purple is yellow, and raw umber is in the yellow family. So I'm going to add, I just want to knock down the chroma. Again, that's another word for intensity of that kind of a dark periwinkle color. When you're learning to paint, I think that really truly the best advice is to just trust yourself and just go for it. I've had enough experiences of the painting feeling like it's going south, but then it turning out, just for the mere fact that that is the process, at least in my experience with the way I paint. The painting can't always look amazing at every stage. And I also have enough experience to know, I mean, I'm always learning, but there are situations I put myself in where a painting failed, and, you know, it's never a failure because there's always a lesson to be learned. But there have been situations where I'm like, well, of course that failed because I only had 30 minutes before the sunset and everything completely changed, and I was trying to paint a painting that was much too big with way too much information. So, you know, you're always learning, and if something fails, then you have to ask yourself, you know, why was it that painting failed? And there is an answer. There is a reason that the painting failed. Maybe, again, you didn't have enough time. Maybe you weren't in the right mindset, were tired, maybe too many distractions. Maybe you got scared. And I don't know if you remember No Fear. It was, if you're old enough, in the 90s, at least where I grew up in northern Minnesota, there were a lot of No Fear bumper stickers. It was kind of a slogan. And that's how you need to approach painting, with no fear. I need to get one of those stickers for my easel here. Again, I'm eating my words today about this cadmium lemon. I'm actually using a lot of it. When you're painting, talking a lot about squinting down to see the big picture, and it's the same thing with your painting. You need to think, this is where you have to make creative decisions in terms of the harmony, the balance of colors and values. When you put something down, you know, how does it fit into the whole? I suppose it's a little bit like making a dinner plate. Balancing those colors, for instance, like, you know, I want to have some green on the plate, and making a balanced meal. Making sure that dinner plate looks healthy and balanced. It's kind of how I see painting. Cooling off those greens in the middle of that petal. Looking at this relationship between this petal and this petal, in terms of the drawing of it, where to place it. Not worrying too much about the beauty of the image yet. Still doing some drawing here. So as I draw this petal, I'm, you know, where is it in relation to this leaf? Where is it in relation to this leaf? Again, that is also where I squint down. Helps flatten the whole image out. here. Not sure what's going on up here. It took a while to get this painting to a place where I'm ready to paint these flowers. Maybe I'm avoiding it, I don't know. I think I am a little bit. I'm kind of new at painting flowers, and I've never painted a hydrangea before, aside from my attempt yesterday with my kids. Bugging me. And I do enjoy painting with them, but sometimes they just, as any parent knows, they just need your full attention. And yesterday happened to be one of those afternoons. I tried earlier in the day too, but it just was one of those days. I'd like to do a larger painting out here, maybe a multi-day session. We'll see if I get to it, because I also have some lilies that just bloomed, some oriental lilies that bloomed in my backyard. So kind of itching to paint those too, but we'll see. And I have a painting, well, as most artists do, I have too many things going on in my studio right now and never enough time. I'm going to put this on time lapse here shortly. I'm sure many of you, unless you were in a direct audience, able to ask me questions and whatnot, you probably just fast forwarded anyway. So put this on a time lapse so I can just focus and get this painting done. I'm just going to soften these edges. And I'm going to switch over to time lapse. Okay, so here's the time lapse. I put it on time lapse because I really needed to focus on the hydrangeas. It's always a little bit difficult to paint and talk and demonstrate at the same time. And these hydrangeas are, they're pretty busy flowers, a lot going on. I worked primarily initially on the leaves more than the hydrangeas, actually. That might come from my tendency to paint the backgrounds with my figures first. When I'm doing a landscape painting, everything, I kind of work from the top down, or everything kind of happens all at once. But when I have like an isolated subject, like here, there are flowers, even though it's all one, it's easier to mentally distinguish your subject from your background. And I think I probably put a lot of emphasis on finishing the background before I got too involved in the flowers. I think of them as the background is kind of like the supporting actors, and so getting those in place will allow me to kind of put my best efforts forward with that support system in place when painting the main subject, which obviously in this case is the hydrangeas. At the same time, the leaves do have quite a bit of detail, but I did try to push them back a little bit. And here is the final painting. I think it turned out pretty good, and I'm really happy with it, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.